You boys know what's about to happen to you. You leave now.
Some consider these traits to be toxic, such as undesirable in the men of today. We consider these traits such as these not only to be desirable, but to be appreciated and celebrated. Welcome to the Toxic Male Appreciation Show, hosted by and La Reina Creole. Welcome to the safe space for the toxic male.
Hello everyone, and welcome to my channel. I'm the Reina Creole, and with me is her of positive fandom. And this, of course, is the Toxic Male Appreciation Show, where those things Hollywood likes to call toxic and look down on you for that. No. Here we celebrate those traditional masculine traits, and especially when it comes to pop culture and our entertainment. So we have this show specially carved out to let you all know you are in a safe space where you are appreciated.
Absolutely, Lorena, and it is so great to do this show in particular. Our picks for 2023. I'm so excited for the show.
I am too. Of course there's lots of stuff that's wrong with Hollywood, but there are these nuggets out there that you and I have seen, and people we know and trust have seen and have come up with pretty much the same conclusion. But hey, we're putting all these in one episode in a nutshell so you can see what's been offered in 2023. And if you missed some, you can go back and check those out. And considering this is the last Toxic Male Appreciation of 2023, hey, we figure why not count these down? So are you ready, my dear?
Yes, I'm ready.
Yeah, right. Well, we have a list, but first I'm going to let her start off with her list with what she has. Yeah, I hear you. Well, from that one, we go to another pick of yours for 2023. And I'm not surprised because I had this sucker on my list as well. And that would be John Wick Chapter 4.
Yes, Lorena. This particular film, I think, was just absolutely refreshing to watch, and like like some of my friends who have watched it as well, I've seen it more than once in the theater, and it had everything I ever wanted in a John Wick film. And of course, one element, which actually is kind of aside from the fighting, which we knew was going to be phenomenal, we knew we were going to see incredible things, is that wonderful scene where he's always walking through like that priceless $1 million collection. And this is where we have to fight, right? We have to fight
Yes.
and blow up stuff and beat up each other. But we also have to see priceless collections on display, because that's what they're there for. They're in these glass cases and beautiful displays for a reason. Some of the most creative and beautifully shot scenes that I've seen in a while. And of course, Scott Adkins there, the man who's sitting at the table, a famous action fighter and martial artist who's in it. We had so much of a treat in this film, and certainly it didn't disappoint me. I think might be the best one since the first one for me. I just love this film, and it's great that it's came out in the same year that the Continental came out. Boy, this particular franchise is on fire, Lorena.
Absolutely. I tell you, when I heard John Wick 4 was coming out, John Wick was one of those franchises where I kept hearing about it, but hadn't had a chance to sit down and watch it. and we had a watch party for the first 3 John Wick films, and it's just like, they can't top this. They can't top this. They cannot top this. This 4th one, they kicked it up to a different level. I mean, we got what we expected to see. John Wick, Keanu Reeves just doing some crazy ass stuff, but we saw some great moments. Like we saw the Continental that was over in Tokyo in Japan, and of course we see Hiroyuki Sanada, who is amazing. You will be able to see him in the FX series Shogun next year. You do not want to freaking miss that. He was in there. Donnie Yen was in this movie. This scene where they're going through the building and using like the flamethrower, just the shots, it was literally like a video game. And the whole
the above
thing,
shot, right?
yeah, the above shot, yeah.
So good.
Yeah, the whole theater was like, oh my, I can't believe it. I can't believe what I'm watching. I can't believe what I'm watching. And then the twist at the end of this film, with it's what it boils down to in the end is that, he loved his wife. He is sincerely, he loved his wife. And you see just the kind of life that he's back in, the life that he left behind because of Helen, because he loved Helen and he just wanted, to be with her. But man, lots of lingerie for women in this. Lots of we don't care that the bulletproof suit isn't necessarily feasible or
Mhm.
realistic. We don't freaking care.
Mhm.
Keanu Reeves looks good in the suit. Donnie Yen looks good with like the turtleneck, and
Yes.
he looks good. Hiroyuki Sanada with the suit, and then over that the kimono that he has, to say just men doing men kind of ish. I mean,
Yes.
and the people and the relationships that they care about. John, who he misses his wife. Donnie Yen's character, the fact that the only way that his daughter can be safe is so long as he does what he's supposed to do, and that is take it out. And that's take out John Wick, his friend John Wick. Quotes such as, that's what Hiroyuki Sanada's character said, friendship doesn't mean much when it's convenient.
Right.
And this was something where it wasn't a marker, really, that John called in. He did it as a favor for a friend. This movie so full of toxic masculinity, which is why I made so much freaking money. And it's the ultimate date movie. I'm gonna tell you that right now.
It is the ultimate date movie. And Lorena, both you and I know that they used to make films like this. There used to be tons of films like this that would come out every year. And so there was a lot to talk about. There were so many films where you got to see stuff like this. And there would be so many badass characters. And we're not seeing as many. So this is why it was so special to see Keanu come up and just do this film. There were a lot of people who were very doubtful about it and whether it would have any sort of significance. But I think it proved its significance and its success, and certainly in the appeal to so many people, not just fans of the franchise, but even for people seeing this for the first time. They were blown away by what was done. And I think that they deserve that accolade.
100%. So yes, John Wick Chapter 4, it is now on streaming, so you have no excuse. Tell you what, lock yourself up for a whole day. Watch each movie, bang, bam, 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 bam. Trust
Absolutely.
me, I need the whole 4K Blu-ray set, the whole set with all four of these in there. So we go from this action movie to something one that you picked out. For some reason, I didn't think of, but I did indeed see it. And that will be Luther, the Fallen Son, starring Idris Elba.
Yes. I'm such a huge fan of Idris Elba. And I got to tell you, if that man was single, oh gosh, he is incredible. I've had the opportunity to see him do DJing and He's one of my favorite actors of all time with so much potential. This was a delight. This is the closure of his series, Luther, which is his role as a police officer in the UK, one of his most popular roles. And they made this television movie out of it. It stars Idris Elba, and the villain is Andy Serkis. And the two together, it's just, oh my gosh, they are spectacular. This hero and villain terrorizing people in the way that Andy Serkis has done with that character. It's phenomenal. It's entertaining to watch. Luther knocking down doors. Luther just badass saying, "I'm gonna get you." You know, like it's got so much energy and vibe to it. And I just am so excited and happy that they, did this. And Luther kind of like, I'm not going to say he's gone forever, but let's say for the conclusion of a series, this is just going out with a big bang. This is badass. It's Luther at its best. It's Andy Serkis at his best. This was a nice showdown, and I enjoyed every minute of it. You had to be on your toes. There was so many twists and turns, and it was just wonderful. This is what we want from Luther. We want him to solve these crimes. We want him to be badass. We want him to get the bad guy, and we got all of it and more. This was such an adventure, Lorena. No one will be disappointed after watching this. This was just such an enjoyable, entertaining movie. I just loved it so much.
I tell you, I would have to agree. Luther was, I would see promos for it, and I would say, you know what, I've got to go back and I have to watch it. And I was going to go and watch the first one, but Netflix decided to pop this one up. I'm like, okay, I'm actually going to sit down. I'm going to watch it right from the beginning. Now, I love true crime and I love a good criminal mastermind story. And this one, you're absolutely right. Between Andy Serkis playing off of Idris Elba, I couldn't find anything wrong with this film. It kept me guessing. It kept me on the edge of my seat. The people who Luther is trying to protect, the kind of crap that he goes through. I mean, a cop in gen population.
Yes. Yes.
It was so good.
Yes, it really was. And it brings to mind another film of something as badass, but I'm gonna bring that up later. But I didn't know Idris could do that, because we've seen him in so many roles. Of course, we remember him from pretty much a lot of different genres that he's played. This was very different for me. This felt very toxic male. He was strong. He was going to get through this no matter what. That scene, Lorena, where he's going through pretty much I don't even know how to describe it. He had to go through the prison, and it wasn't easy. And he's with a family, and you're like, wait a minute, how is this happening? Like, how is he going to survive getting through this? It was just so enjoyable to watch. I was so impressed with him being able to survive that. I know I couldn't, but Luther, he's unbelievable and just amazing. It was just really up to par of what I was hoping to see in the film, and they delivered in this film. Thank you, whoever decided to do this film, The Fallen Son. It was so enjoyable, and Idris still looks amazing.
He does.
Oh gosh,
He does. He looks freaking hot.
Yeah.
He looks hot, and he's in just a perfectly crafted, story. It's not preaching to you. If you've ever seen any cop drama where you've got a police officer who looks like they're dirty, and then they're, thrown in Gen Pop, but they're trying to clear their name at the same time. That's the part that'll grab you. Andy Serkis, ooh, he's freaking crazy. And I love how nuts he is. So again, one of those where you have Idris Elba playing a male character who is trying to do everything that he possibly can to protect the people that he cares about.
Yes, and he's in prison and he looks this good. Like how? How do you look this good in prison? Nobody looks this good in prison. Oh wait,
No.
Idris Elba. That's why.
Yeah, he would look good in prison.
Yeah, he looks how? Look at, oh man, I can't. I
I
can't.
love this. I love this. I love the settings. I haven't been back to the UK in quite a long time. So seeing the sets and the locations and all of that, it just, brought back like shots like this.
Oh God, yeah. Yeah.
Like shots like this. So you will definitely,
Mm.
you're a fan of Idris Elba, if you're a fan of cop dramas, if you're a fan of British drama in general, you will definitely like Luther and the Fallen Son.
Mm.
Put this sucker
We need to know what he is.
on your list.
Yes.
Yes. So let's see. She's so many good ones. I'm like, yeah. Shoot, I forgot about this one. One that I haven't had a chance to see yet, but I need to. I will be when it's on streaming for real, and that, of course, would be Thanksgiving.
Oh my gosh, Lorena, when you and I did the special on Patrick Dempsey, I had no idea that this film was as phenomenal as it was. And of course, you and I were both mesmerized by the notion of this happening in Plymouth. And I had read the promo about what was going to happen, but I was not expecting such a radically disturbing Black Friday scene that is based on, let's say, this reaction of someone breaking, of someone losing their spirit, not being the person they are anymore. I think it's remarkable. People dressed up as pilgrims and this ominous feeling that something is wrong, and we know what's wrong. People were killed shopping on Black Friday when it was avoidable and there was no reason for anyone to die. And this caused someone to have a psychotic break. It makes total sense, but it felt so realistic and it felt quite understandable in a time where we're talking about feelings and how people respond to certain situations. I can understand someone losing it over this, having to witness the horror of what happened. And they do it perfectly. Mm-hmm. This is what you want if you're going to do a horror film that is based on a time when you're supposed to be happy and grateful, but the opposite happens. This was something I was not expecting and pleasantly surprised. And while it is a classic slasher film, it is. I mean, you can see from the promo, you can see the slashing. There is still this really satisfying element about it, that even though we've seen this particular formula over again and again, this doesn't feel like repetitive or anything. It doesn't feel as if, it doesn't feel meaningless in the way that it could feel. This has, it grabs you. And I compared it a little bit to last year's favorite of Violent Night, but this is completely different. This is a revenge story where a person has been broken from what has happened on that night, which was supposed to be a Black Friday fun event. Oh, look, you got one, you're lucky, all that fun stuff. All of a sudden, now we're seeing almost as if, let's say hypothetically, it's not really true, but as if the Quakers themselves were disciplining everybody and saying, because you have broken, the commandment of treating others like you would treat yourself or whatever, I have to take out, I'm the one who has to do justice here. It's fallen to me. And it's almost as if the villain takes on that role as, well, they are actually dressed as a pilgrim, but it's almost as if that is more of an extreme version of justice. We know that they had their own form of justice, but now we're seeing it enacted in present day. And it is remarkable, Lorena. It is haunting and terrifying. And there's no escape. You can't run away from it. That's what's so great about it. You cannot escape this. You can't run away from this reckoning that's happening, Lorena. And that is why this movie is on my list. if you enjoy this sort of stuff, if you can kind of get into the nitty gritty and kind of understand the parallels and let's say even the metaphors of what's going on, you'll have fun with this. But there is that element of shock, of having to accept. I didn't hear anything about it this year, but all those years we had to hear where people were getting killed from Black Friday shopping, even hearing that on the news is shocking and appalling. Somebody broke from it. It's going to have an effect. It's ruining people's lives, ruining their family. There is a repercussion from this. And I think that Thanksgiving, this artistic expression of it, was very toxic male of saying, you know what, you guys think you got away with it. I don't think so. I don't think so. You're going to go into stockade. Like this is kind of old school justice. I've heard people say Southern justice. Well, this is this is Quaker, like say Quaker Nouveau justice.
Yeah, this is definitely pilgrim justice for real. Case in point. I know I've talked about this several times, that I actually descend from some of the Mayflower passengers. Well, there was actually one person who wound up murdering another, and it was one of my ancestors who had to actually be judge, jury, and had somebody else be the executioner. But that's kind of like what they did. Another group of my ancestors, she was, poor Welsh girl, came to Plymouth Colony. She winds up getting knocked up by her boyfriend. Guess who gets put in the stocks? Not the boyfriend. She gets put into the stocks. So eventually they married, but that was stuff that happened. You had another person who got whipped for slander because they just kept trashing somebody's name or whatever. And guess what? Said, guess what? We're going to take you out there. We're going to whip you, and we're going to put you into the stocks. It was very, very swift. Very swift, not always equitable, but there wasn't, folks, this was like before, warrants and and all of that. No, justice was very, very swift and accepted. So seeing something like that, and we did, these hordes of people who were just like trampling over these poor workers to try and get these bargains and all this consumerism. I can definitely see the motive of, the quote unquote villain in this movie, who feels that Thanksgiving has gone away from the tradition of being around, friends or family or loved ones, and being thankful for the gift of life and of living, and just being thankful for what they had. And now these people are like, you know, ungrateful. And it's just like, you know what? Perhaps I need to show you why you need to be grateful for your life, or perhaps you're like the perfect bad example that, that I'm gonna set. So I saw this preview in the theaters and I was like, wow, that actually looks good. I don't know how well it will do at the box office, but this is definitely a popcorn movie for real.
Yeah, and I think your analysis of it too was spot on, because I think it's so important for us to see artistic expression of something that's not easy to express. We don't want to see another documentary about this. And I think that this does get out a lot of frustrations about having to see this on the news. It's not a happy, report from the news. But this, they made it into something that was actually entertaining, Lorena, and very, very badass, very aggressive, very toxic male, because in this particular version, people are not going to get away with just doing whatever they wanted to. And that was another element of, of this, where no one was being punished, let's say. And
Mhm.
when you see people, no one can be blamed for, the death of 20 people. It's not a, a happy feeling for many people to have to deal with that, especially family and friends and loved ones. I think they address that, and we don't always see that addressed in every film. Certainly not anything but The Name of Thanksgiving in this manner. So this was
Mhm.
so creative, and I'm so curious as to what you think about this film, Lorena. I really am. I'd love to get your opinion when you see it.
I certainly will, because I was like, I have to watch this film. I have to watch this film. And especially since I've been to Plymouth. So I'm like looking and I'm like, yeah, that's exactly where that is and where that is. And ooh, gonna be pretty cool to see. So I will definitely let you know, folks. Thanksgiving again for some just from what Herm has said. I saw the trailer. It looks like a good popcorn movie.
Mm-hmm.
And to quote Sparky Sweet, street justice, son. That's exactly what's going on in this movie. I cannot wait to see it. Cannot wait to see it. So let's see the next one that you had, and this is another one that was on my list as well. They cloned Tyrone.
Yeah, Lorena, I can't say enough about the badassery in this film, because while it is true that for the most part, this story has a lot to do with a conspiracy theory, which the people who are in the film realize is true. Their thoughts and greatest fears are realized in this film. What I think is so remarkable about it was that they were able to execute it so well. This is badass. People kind of walking around, living their lives. They think everything is fine. They've got guns under the table. They're surviving, not realizing that they're actually in horrible danger. And when the time comes when they must act, they had to decide: am I going to walk away from this shit, or am I going to get badass? And they get badass.
Mm-hmm.
They pound down hard. This might be throughout the entire world. They do not care. It's not going to happen on their turf, on their watch. And that is so badass. That is so cool. I think that does say a lot about the frame of mind when you're making a film like this, because they could have just left it and, they go on their way and everything just stays business as usual. That's not what this director wanted to do. That's not what the writer wanted to do. They wanted people riding around in their cool cars, going underground, doing whatever they have to do to take care of stuff, come back up, shock everybody. It's like, I bet you it's in the Colt 45. This fun foray into something that when it had to get serious and when they had to crack down on this, they did. This is very toxic male. I think that this is quite representative of, yes, it is about the Black community, but I think it's also representative of what many people in the United States would do, even if it was not about the Black community. They would not stand for this, and they would take a stance against this, and they would stop it. I think that's such a good example of what you can do when it seems like you don't have any power over a situation.
Absolutely, absolutely. And one of the universal themes in this film is what happens to a community when men are removed from, protecting their communities, for providing for their communities. It shows the importance of men in society. And there's a scene where Tyrone, where he basically says, this is all, this is all my fault. Like this is on me. And just how much it doesn't seem to affect him when he says it matter of fact. But when he finds out that the world is not as real as he thought it was, that scene about his mom.
Oh, it was heartbreaking.
Oh man, that was
stories, and he's like, open up, and it's just. But that, I think, I wouldn't do that. I'd be afraid to bust in the door. But he's a man, so he can go ahead and, like, a man can do that. I can't. I don't know about you, but I can't bust down any door. Like, that's not happening. But he was like, F this, I'm going to get in there. And I think your example of this, Lorena, is exactly, it is very important to note that the presence of men is not only improves things, but it's required. We need men, and we need men to take a stand, and they would. And honestly, I do believe if this was a real life situation, they would do this. This is what would happen.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. And when you have the right type of woman, it was just like, no, we have to do the right thing. We have to do the right thing. They want to be better men. And he's actually, in one point, he is so embarrassed when she basically says, so you're just going to give up. He's like, Yeah, I guess I am. And he's just like, I can't. It's like I can't face myself, and I can't face you. So I tell you, this film, it's like you start out, you're not quite sure what it's going to be about, but once it hits you, it's just like it was in front of my face the whole entire time. And it's a twist, almost like, I want to say, like the movie Get Out, when when it finally hits you what all this mess is about, and then in that moment it makes sense, and it's horrifying when it makes sense.
It is horrifying, and even with this horrifying scenario, they managed to slip in comedy, which is incredibly hard to do in situations. And I know I had joked about it. I was joking in the sense that they were very specific about the comedy, where she was like, well, if I'm in the car and my head is bobbing up and down, they're going to think I'm doing something, and absolutely nothing was happening. And it was that type of knowledge that she had, where she knew they would ignore them. They just think it was just normal
Mm-hmm.
behavior. That type of knowledge, where she was doing that, I was like, this is actually kind of funny. Like, these guys are getting off knowing that she's doing stuff like that. But what they don't realize, she has the one up on them this time. Those little details that are so important to make you believe in the story, to make you feel, well, now the story is progressing. She's not actually doing anything. We know, we have that information. Nothing's happening in the car. She's doing this so she can distract them away. And that's the type of stuff that makes a story go forward. So the sense that they believe she was having, let's say, a sex or doing a sex act, which wasn't
Yeah.
happening, but it can still progress a story forward. So you see sometimes situations like that, when it comes to sexual acts, can actually make a story go forward. And you needed to have that reinforcement. We saw so many reinforcements in it. We saw so many funny things in this, a lot of fun things that you could just laugh. And inevitably, I think, if you can go through a film like this, which did have a heavy story, but still laugh. We were laughing hard when we watched this. There were lots of funny points and things in it. That certainly is a film that is entertaining as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And then I tell you, this was brilliant. I don't know what was it Jewel? I don't know what movie Jewel Taylor is going to do again, but I will say he brought out the best with John Boyega's performance, Tiana Paris's performance, and of course
Yes.
we all know about Jamie Foxx and
Yes.
everything.
Yes.
But it's all even playing field. They play off of each other so darn well. It's like you can't tell who's been acting longer than the other. It's just it's great. It's great to watch. And again, that universal theme of what happens when, we'll say, when other forces basically try to use you and your people and take out men from the environment. So
Mhm. And it totally taking advantage of an entire population and neighborhoods. I have to say, Teyana Paris she was always one of my favorite actresses, but I'm just keep falling in love with her again and again as I see her in more and more things. And even in the Marvels, I thought she was the best thing in the Marvels, Lorena. She just shined as in the Marvels. She was good in that film. And I thought to myself, she needs her own film. They could have just done a film on her, and I would have gone to see that film.
yep, I would have too. And if you don't feel like, oh, you guys are making it up, go watch this movie.
Mhm.
For real. Go watch this movie and you'll come away with three things. One, Jamie Foxx is an amazing darn actor.
Yes.
Okay. Number two, John Boyega was woefully underused in the Star Wars films. When you see the just depth of his acting talent, just man, I mean that, and of course Teyana Paris. And I honestly have to say a good percentage of this has to do with how well the director used them. So check out they clone Tyrone. We actually have a watch party for that, which hopefully I'm trying to get out for the end of the year, which we did with Gospel According to Mark with the Sea. Well, Mark with the Sea, and yeah, we watched this film. We had a lot to say about it. You're always going to hear us talk about this film. Definitely one of the best films to come out of Hollywood for 2023, very, very toxic,
Mm-hmm.
toxic male type of film. And it's uh it's amazing. Even dude on the corner.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's all I'm gonna say. Yeah.
Yeah.
Even him.
They
So
thought of everything.
every freaking thing they thought about. Remember the horror movie? The guy they think is crazy?
He's
Turns out he wasn't really crazy, was
That's
he?
right. No, he wasn't crazy after all.
Yeah, it's like, oh man. Oh. So we go from that one to another banger that you have picked out, and that would be Oppenheimer.
Certainly. And, there's so much to say about this film, Lorena. It's controversial because it's about a controversial character who not only brings together a group of people to create this destructive bomb, but also has sex whenever he wants to, like he's just like, I've got to have it. I just love the audacity of the character. Cillian Murphy does such a great job of making this person come to life. I don't know if his personality was anything like the way Cillian Murphy did it. However, that's okay because for this media, for the cinema, for the screen, we needed to see a character that had the sense that he could be a little more provocative. The
Mm-hmm.
nature of what he was doing was provocative. You're designing a bomb. It's not sort of a meek thing that he's involved in. So he had to have a sense of being on the edge, being a man's man, being married. And he also has this lady that he likes a lot. And I'm sure there might have been other ladies, but he lived his life the way he wanted to. And he did not really care. I think that he had this spirit about him where he knew people were going to come for him, but he did not care. I'm just going to be who I am and do this extraordinary accomplishment, which was extraordinary. You and I grew up in the nuclear age, so it's the norm for us, but for all the people involved in the movie, these characters, the whole thing was so shocking and jarring and disruptive in their life. The war, we can't ever understand all the details. We're lucky enough to have parents and grandparents who went through this. And we
Mm-hmm.
understand what toxic males are like because our parents' generation was that way. Our grandparents' generation, all these people who were fighting in this war were that way. So, seeing these new generations where they're stepping away or feel as if it's not important, it's so freaking important to have people who can be this way and they don't care. They're going to be toxic. They're going to go ahead and do stuff like this. You had to have balls to do this. This theoretically, from a scientific point of view, as far as I'm concerned, is the most toxic male scientific movie I've seen in ages, Lorena. And I'm so happy they did this. And I don't know, this is going to be the only thing that's going to show the younger generation what men were like during this era and how they conducted themselves. And when push comes to shove, they could do this. I also liked Matt Damon as this guy who says, this is the most important thing in the whole world. And there was so much riding on it. What enjoyment we got from seeing some of the drama, the stakes of it all, when we know these guys were up at night, not getting any sleep, trying to solve this problem. And it was very, very serious, but Nolan made this into an entertaining film, very toxic, very controversial, maybe the most controversial film that's come out this year, Lorena. So much to be said about this. They can't even keep this physical media version in stock because so many people have been trying to buy it for Christmas. People are dying to get the copies of this film. I just don't know whether we're going to see another film like this for a long time, Lorena.
I would have to agree with you. I saw Oppenheimer. Of course, we both, we're both like in the sciences. You're in the sciences, I'm in engineering. Oppenheimer, known as the father of the atomic bomb. And you cannot get through any kind of science class without knowing about Oppenheimer, knowing all the risks that had to be taken by him and his team to come up with come up with this weapon before the Nazis came up. with this particular, came up with this weapon. You have the United States involved in a world war. Okay. And a lot of the World War II vets are not with us. But I remember the stories that my grandfather would tell me about World War II. And after after VE Day, he was actually going to get sent to the Pacific Theater. And they talk about this in Oppenheimer. It's what are the casualties that are going to happen if we put more troops in the Pacific Theater or if we drop this bomb instead. And you have to have the guts to make that kind of call. Is it going to work? Yeah. Yeah, I'm 95% sure. It's like, what? But you have to have guts to take that risk, to have that logical calculation where you are trying to protect lives in your own country against against an enemy. It is one of the ultimate ways of a man being protective, because it isn't just him. Lives depend on him. Millions of other men's lives depended on him, like our troops, and our troops and everything depended on that. So definitely, from point of scientific toxic men, we have that trope of the mad scientist, everything from Frankenstein. So he wasn't mad, he was actually he was quite smart, amazingly smart. And just to see men doing stuff and not being apologetic for it, like we see the one woman, and it was very realistic when she showed up, and he's just like, I think he said he wasn't, if she was a new secretary or something like that. And she's just like, no, I'm one of the scientists. And oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah, you make a good point with this, Lorena, and certainly this was such high stakes. The level of testosterone must have been off the charts about this, because there was so much that had to be said. It wasn't an ordinary situation. There was a lot that needed to be discussed. There were all these details, all of this, logistics, the logistics of it all that isn't easily explainable to non-scientists. Trying to explain science to, politicians, trying to explain, the resources needed or a protocol to non-scientists is extremely difficult. And the constant headbutting, only the military seem to understand. I'm not going to say that they're not scientific, but only the military seem to understand what Oppenheimer was saying very often, when Matt Damon would say, oh yes, oh okay, you need that, okay, in opposed to, well, we don't really understand what, no. The military is like, and even that one scene, Lorraine, where they start carting off the bomb, to where it's got to go. And I'm like, where are you going with that? Even I was possessive. I was like, you can't take that.
Me.
But the military was like, look, we own this. We're just waiting for you to develop this. And the ballsiness of the military being in there and saying, we're taking it and we're actually going to use this in, on someone. So how do you like that? Like it was very, but you needed people who believed in what this potentially could do down the line. And it wasn't a 5-minute, boardroom discussion. This was a discussion that was going on from day one to the end of the war. So, it was constantly being talked about, for the purpose of cinematography and movies. That's how it played, but it was a much longer, much, intense discussion. None of this was a 5-second decision. None of it was a 2-hour decision, nothing like that. The most incredible and talented minds were working on this. And that's why they managed to get a successful bomb created. And there was so much more to it. It just, the hits kept coming, Lorena. And, Oppenheimer was like, you guys are not going to keep me down. I'm just going to be here, just kind of like this passive aggressiveness in the way that Cillian Murphy portrayed the character, as far as I'm concerned, like a passive aggressive, but definitely a man who was not going to be told no, who was not going to have anybody push him around. They wanted to push him. They kept prodding him. They kept tapping him on the shoulder. And, he just was like, I don't think so. I think that shows the, let's say the resolve of the character and of the way that they portrayed him, regardless of the political pressures on everyone. What a great film. What an entertaining film. This is actually my favorite shot, Lorena. This is my favorite shot from the film.
I love this shot.
Oh, he's looking out, and we just know it's like there's so many stages: the flash, and then the boom, and then the shockwave, and then the other parts. Like it's all these elements scientifically that we learn from after 300 bombs that have been detonated up to this point in our lives. What a way the world was changed by this person and the team of people who worked on this. These were extraordinary people, Lorena. What a fantastic generation of people that worked on this. What an amazing tribute to them this film has been. An extremely toxic male, just amazing. And it's a true story. This real history is amazing, Lorena. It's amazing.
Absolutely amazing. No computers, no calculators, chalkboards, and just discussions and theories. And man, this is just amazing, totally amazing film. Very, very toxic male film. Trust me, you will enjoy it. Men are not portrayed as like the quote unquote villains, except for, you got the marital thing that's going on, but that's a bit different. But the men are seen as heroes delivering this type of destruction in order to save the country.
Doing things that nobody else wants to do, but they know had to be done, suicide missions, all this stuff that went on during that era where they didn't even question it. They just walked in and did it. And nobody was like, I don't want to do this. There wasn't any of that. They did their duty. They pretty much died for the rest of us. They paid a heavy price for what they've done. And, I hope that when people watch this film, they understand the sacrifices made even to get to the point that we see in the film. It's just really, Christopher Nolan is so humble, Lorena, when he talks about this film. I'm like, do you realize what you've done? It's unbelievable. And the book that it's written, that the screenplay was adapted from, Prometheus, American Prometheus, is also quite much more comprehensive than what we saw in the film, maybe 10 times as much information that was shown in the film versus what's in the book. So if you want to learn more about Oppenheimer, you can, but it is quite true to the book, quite true to form, just remarkable, Lorena. It's just really amazing film. I just can't even say enough about it. Okay.
I tell you, yes, I could talk about Oppenheimer all day. It is so good. It is so good. But we go to yet another toxic male film. In this film, I've been waiting for the second one ever since that What If was dangled in front of us after the first one, and that would be Extraction 2. First of all, if you have not seen Extraction 1, stop and come back. Go watch Extraction 1. How awesome that film was. I mean, it was extremely popular, believe it, like broke records. Chris Hemsworth is amazing. It is the shot, that last shot at that action sequence at the end. I don't think I breathed at all. And I don't know how many minutes it was, but it was amazing. And Extraction 2 just builds on top of that.
Yeah, and I think Hemsworth is our modern action hero. He has such a great presence and look on screen, and we've been watching him as Thor and some other roles over the past years, but he just shines in Extraction. It's his series. He's pretty much the star of this, and it feels really good to see him go in, get people, kick ass, protect them. He's the hero. He assists people. He's remarkable in this role. I love him in this. I think this is his forte. I want to see more. I hope he continues to make more films where he gets to show this bravado, this masculinity, this, special forces trained character who can handle any situation. And certainly he pushes it to the limit. He pushes really hard, and the stunts are remarkable. It feels like you're right there. So entertaining, so beautifully done. Bravo to Hemsworth. Last year you and I watched him in Limitless. We know that he is somebody who has so many incredible abilities and has this sense of being the best that he can be, whether it's acting or in his family or his health. I think a lot of that shows when he plays a character like this one in Extraction 2, Lorena.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And the fact that this story revolves around him extracting a family out of a prison, and it is not as straightforward um, as it seems with what's going on. And also you have Chris Hemsworth character, Tyler Rake. He is still so guilt-ridden about what happened with his son. So as strong as he is, as invincible as he seems to be, that is something that is continuously haunting haunting him. And the way that he gets closure from that it's awesome at the end. To see that he's more than just, he's not just a one-dimensional character. There's so many things that's going on. He can like shoot somebody and then give somebody advice at, at the same time. And I can't really say more about it except for it's freaking awesome. Toxic men doing toxic male stuff, protecting people, fighting for people, standing up for those who cannot protect themselves.
Absolutely. He just shines so well as this person who can do what seems to be impossible, can make the impossible possible. He gets the whole family, in a situation where they're imprisoned. And how do you get them literally in prison? And how do you get them out of that situation? And it's not easy. It is hard. It is difficult. There are challenges, and we get to see a lot of the challenges. It's not a smooth road without bumps and without consequences. So it's not he just snaps his fingers and it happens, not by a long shot. This is something where we witness that type of extraction, that type of extraction, an extraction, special forces extraction, which is what this feels like at when at its best, but having to deal with additional complications that these guys deal with all the time and never complain about. They just go about their job and adapt to when things don't go the way as planned. They're going to make it work. They're going to work, the issue. They're going to find a solution and keep going. They're not going to give up. They're going to find a way to make it happen. And they do. And that type of attitude and ability, this can-do attitude that men tend to have, it's just refreshing and so fantastic to watch on screen. It's so satisfying to see this. Women love to see this. Men love to see this. There, it is inherently something that I think is toxic male, and Hemsworth just shines in this. He shines. He's like a star in this character.
Yeah, Tyler Rake is a really well-written character with an emotional journey that people can relate to. And what more of a universal theme than a man who's grieving over the death of his son, where it's not something that even he, with all of his strength, could prevent from happening. It's just, that part just gets to you. That part just gets to you too. Definitely have a double feature. Watch Extraction and then watch Extraction 2.
Yes. Oh, it's
definitely. Definitely worth your time. So I have 3 additional ones to add. I mean, Ertem has hit so many of them. I'm like, yeah, that one's on my list. So I didn't even think about that one. I should have thought about that one. This one, some of you are probably going to be like, really? That's the one that you're going to pick? I am. Hear me out. So Meg 2, The Trench. Now, the original Meg movie I saw was funny. It was great. It was crazy stuff. And, and there was a romantic angle that was in there. Now, with this particular film, time has passed. And Jason Statham's character is basically kicking ass, but at the same time, he is also a devoted dad at the same time. So seeing how he deals with, I guess, dealing with more loss in his life, but at the same time trying to parent this young girl at the same, also where he's like, okay, and I'm trying to figure out this parenting thing, and she's a young, we'll say teenager. They never do what they're supposed to do, and her doing that lands them in quite a bit of trouble, whole lot of stuff going on. And this movie is so funny from from so many angles. It's funny, but in the end, you have lots of positive male characters, but you have two specific positive male characters, Jason Statham and Jing Woo. Those two guys, where they're just like, we have a bunch of people to protect. We also have a daughter and niece that we need to protect. And the one character, I'm forgetting his name. Yeah, I can say it. Yeah, Paige Kennedy. Okay, as DJ. The difference of him between the first movie and the second movie, it's hilarious. But you're just like, oh yeah, that's what I want to see. I mean, men doing great stuff in there, saving people, you know, doing the things that count the most, and they're not being ridiculed for what they do. So the biggest thing with this film is, again, the positive male, positive family vibes, and just, again, an ensemble cast. Everyone brings their strengths to this. So I oh god, I laugh so hard watching this film, but it is fun. It is a lot of fun. Jing Woo, I believe he's Chinese, so I think he's part of like the I want to say like the Hong Kong kung fu movies. I think he's out of that theater as well. But great stuff. I mean, just a fun dude movie. I don't know if you've had a chance to see this or not.
I haven't watched it, no, but I'm dying to see it. I haven't had a chance. It looks amazing, and yeah, I haven't had a chance to see it, but I can see what you're saying. It does look like the only people who are going to get you out of this are Jason Statham. Like, he's the one who can get you out of this. He's the one who can rescue you from this, because this isn't going to be an easy ride by a long shot.
No, it's sort of like, Dad, am I grounded? He's like, you are so grounded. But we got to get out of this first. But yeah, you are so grounded. Oh, but yeah, this is fun. Popcorn movie. Just watch it. Again, you can watch it without, feeling that, if you're a man, you suck. No, you see this movie, it's like, you're a man. Yes, you're the hero of everything in your own, in your own way. Even if you may not look as cool as Jason Statham riding on a jet ski with the with the spear, and there's a megalodon shark coming after him. Too funny. Definitely check that out. So yeah, okay, I lied. I have 4, but next one that I have, and this one kind of flew under the radar for me until I saw the trailer for it, and this is on Netflix. This is Old Dads.
I haven't seen this.
You have to, literally, Bill Burr's character they're all these Gen X, guys, and
Yeah.
they have to deal with like a boss they have that now is like like a millennial. And I almost want to say it's like Married with Children in a way, but they're just fed up with all the PC nonsense garbage that's been
Yeah.
going on. And it's kind of like how each of them adjusts to what's going on. So they're, quote unquote old dads because some of them they had kids late in life, some of them the kids are, grown and out the house, but just the types of struggles that they go through, with people deeming them as toxic when it's like, no, it's not that we're toxic. It's just you're just being really stupid right 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 now. So they're learning their way through, through all of this, but it's fun. It's hilarious, especially if you're tired of like a lot of the woke nonsense that's out there. I said I was going to stop using woke, but anyway, that's the nomenclature, so we're gonna use it. But it's a very satisfying conclusion to this, because what it boils down to is you need to do what it is that you need to do in order to keep your family together, and that fatherhood is important, extremely important, and necessary.
Absolutely. We certainly need our men, especially Gen X men, to pretty much lay down the law and say it like it is, because there's a lot of misinformation out there. They don't have any of that. They know what to do. You can go to them, get an answer, and that's what's going to be done. And there's no sort of like back thinking or wondering if it's right or wrong. No, they can make the call. And that's something that I like about them when it comes to being managers, especially senior managers, and they can go ahead and say, this is what's going to happen. You don't have to wonder about it. There is no, gee, I wonder if they know what they're talking about. They have the experience and they know what they're doing because they've done it before. I think when the sign flashes and says like they're doing their best, it's like because they have even more to deal with now. And the younger generation does look to them for guidance, even though they don't like it and feel that they might know a more efficient way. We don't have to necessarily Google everything. Like we don't have to do that because, let's say I'm a Gen Xer. So, it's like, it's not necessarily something I have to do as often as some of the other generations, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with Googling everything, but it is nice to kind of go up to somebody and ask them what they want to do and get an answer. So I don't know if this film is like that, but I know we're at my workplace where we do have people who are in their 50s and they have infants now, Lorena. They have infants. So it's it's something that seems to be happening more and more and more for whatever reason. And it's a wonderful thing, but I like this notion where someone's like, no, dad, and then they'll be like, what do you need, son? It's like, it's not that's not their son, but it's like, if you're going to call me a dad, I'm going to call you a son. So it's I'd rather them say old dads rather than boomer. But yeah, it's interesting to see how these guys are going to do this, and we need them. We need twice as many of them. So these guys are retiring from work. We need them at the workplace. It's difficult to get work done when they're not around. I'm just being honest about it, Lorraine. What do
Yeah,
you?
that's true. That's very true. You need to be around and call it out, what it is, what's going on straight. It's like being that type of straight shooter. It's like that virtue is now seen as very threatening, and people are worried about, their feelings, and they're all in their feelings, as opposed to, what, look, this is what's going on. But yeah, like if the internet goes down, you've got millennials and Gen Zs running around with their hair on fire, and it's like, network is down. All right, I'm gonna go do something else. Who wants to go with me? This movie, oh my gosh, the fact that Bill Burr, his kids going to like some kind of exclusive private school, because that's what you got to do in Los Angeles. You don't want to put him in the LA Unified School District. Um, and he got to he was late picking up his kid. He was like, "What? I'm just late." He's like, "Well, you're supposed to follow the rules." And he said something like really not PC. Don't you know they pulled him into a struggle session with the other parents? But how he handled that, oh my friend, it was too funny. It really was. It's funny. It's heartfelt. I thought it was absolutely hilarious watching this. Let's just say you had one of the millennials who was a fan of NWA. Bokeem Woodbine says, "Really, how much of a fan of NWA are you?" Are you?
Let's hear it.
He said, "Put on Straight Outta Compton." I went, "You probably say the N word too." He's like, "Really? Okay, put it on. Put it on. I want to hear you say it."
Mhm.
I'm not gonna give it away, but that comes back in a scene that is so freaking funny. I laughed for 5 minutes straight. I just couldn't. But this is funny. Great laughs. Really, really great toxic men in this one. And you know, yeah. Yeah. Let's just put it this way. You can't hit cocaine like you used to back in the 80s.
It sounds
And
refreshing, Lorena. I've got to watch this.
it is. It's absolutely freaking hilarious. Some people, let's put it this way, some people are upset about Bill Burr. As soon as I heard that, I said, I gotta watch this film. And I sure did. I had the best time watching this darn movie. I laughed my ass off. It was just like, yeah, that's kind of like what we used to do.
And for those old dads who are watching this, we appreciate you. Please don't retire. We need you on the
Yeah, we
workplace.
need you. We really do. We really
Please.
do. We need you. We need you. So my last suggestion or my last recommendation of a wonderful toxic male film. This one came in late in the year, but I'm so glad it happened. And that would be Godzilla minus one.
Wow.
Have you had a chance to see this?
I have not seen it yet, Lorena. I think I'm probably going to see it either on Christmas Day or the day after Christmas, Lorena. I have not seen this yet.
As a kaiju fan, this is quite possibly my second favorite Godzilla movie. Now, this is not from Legendary with like Godzilla King of the Monsters, although yes, Godzilla is King of the Monsters. Get that straight. Or, Godzilla versus Kong. That's Legendary series. Toho, who owns the original rights to Godzilla, has produced their own movie. This one is more serious. This is in post-war Japan. And we actually come across, I didn't even know they existed, failed suicide bomber. Like he wound up landing his craft like on some island out of the way. And the technicians that were there were like, "There's nothing wrong with your plane." And he didn't say anything. And one of the maintenance guys comes back and he says, "You know what? We're with you. There's not that many of us, but we're with you." So he knew what was going on. When you went, and I know you and I are students of history, kamikaze pilots, you were not expected to come back.
Mm-hmm.
Your job was to serve the emperor and take down every single Yankee ship that you could. That was your job, and that's what made the kamikaze pilots so lethal. But he didn't. So he's on this little, island, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, Godzilla rolls up there and just starts killing people. And they keep telling him, get in your plane and get to the guns and start shooting it or whatever. And he was stuck. He couldn't do anything. And all these people died. And it's the same technician who was like, "We're with you." He was just like, all these people died and you could have saved them. And they all died. So he's like fighting this war in his head with survivor's guilt. I'm not trying to spoil the whole thing, but first act is, fair game for spoilers. He goes back to where his parents' house was. The one neighbor, she was just like, "Why are you back here? You should have died. If you would have died, my parents and my children would still be alive." And it's just to see post-war Japan, and then you have Godzilla, which, goodness, atomic breath. That's all I'm going to say. But anyway, you have this man who feels like he has let his country down, and even worse, has let himself down. He
Aw.
has like this created family, which he's trying to keep together. A woman who loves him, but he won't bring himself like to marry her because
He feels he's
he feels
dishonored or something like that.
he feels like a failure. He feels that he's still fighting this war in his head with what's going on. But Godzilla poses an even bigger threat. So it's the people in this story, the characters in this story, the heartbreak that the main character goes through. And I think what was his name, the character's name. Character's name is Koichi. And just to see, you can tell like he's shell shocked from the war. He's, a pilot where the Japanese government, well, we'll say the Japanese empire at the time didn't feel that he had value except to die. So he's living, and Godzilla is taking everything away from him.
Oh
And
no.
it's like a cross between Jaws and the last part of Moby Dick, because that book was so freaking boring. Yeah, it is crazy. Like Godzilla and Jaws, and even some of the scenes are like Jaws. But at the crux of the story, you have a man that is broken, looking for redemption and wanting to have a life and be loved and be able to protect his country, to be able to protect his compatriots.
Mhm.
It's so freaking good. And he's a hero. He truly is a hero who works for it. And no matter who you are, even with the subtitles, I personally wish that I could have had the really bad dubbing from back in the day, just to give you the nostalgic vibes. You said you'd watch the Godzilla movies, with dude in the rubber suit. And the dubbing was off, but you really didn't care. It just kind of added to the charm of it. But even though this is subtitled, the performances are so amazing. You get it, and you get this man who is the epitome of toxic, and it's just wonderful.
Wow, I've heard nothing but good things about this film. Everybody who sees it loves it. I can't wait to see it. I'm definitely going to see it over the holiday next week sometime. Lorraine, it looks so amazing, and Godzilla is such a classic. We've fortunately been able to get a lot of Godzilla movies, but this one seems to be a little different from what we've been getting in the past, and I welcome that. I think it's great if you can have a storyline that has so much meaning to it as from what you've described. It just makes the film even better. And who does not like the idea that Godzilla is out there in the water somewhere, Lorena? Godzilla's there.
He's there, and man, I tell you, the special effects in this movie. And they had less money than Marvel. Just saying. Just saying. It was just that good. So folks, we hope you enjoyed this countdown of our favorite toxic male films of 2023. We are definitely looking forward to some more in 2024. So make sure, let us know in the comments. Do you agree with our list, or are there some we forgot, or are there some that you felt we shouldn't have had on the list in the first place? That's okay. It's happened. It's all right. So, what do you have going on, my dear, to let our viewers know about?
Well, right now I am reviewing a television series that's on Apple Plus called For All Mankind,
Mm,
which is in its fourth season, and I'm enjoying that review. And then after that review, I'm going to be looking at the Pacific television series, and then start to review Masters of the Air after that, which is another television series coming up. I can't remember whether it's HBO or Cinemax or whatever it is, but it's from the same people that made Band of Brothers and The Pacific, and now
Oh,
Masters of the Air
wow.
coming out. Yeah, so I'm excited about that. In January, For All Mankind, I think we're on episode 6 or 7. We're almost done with the series. That's what I have going on, Lorena. And thank you for. I've just enjoyed this so much. There were so many wonderful toxic male films and TV shows. This was a phenomenal year. Despite everything, we did get a lot of incredible toxic male programs.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, of course, I love that you're here. I love that we do this show together. It's been an amazing, amazing year doing this show with you. Cannot wait to see what we do in 2024 together. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be awesome. As for your girl, well, I have a couple of theme park streams that are coming up. Going to be live streaming from Universal Orlando on Christmas Eve. So we're going to have fun watching the Christmas parade featuring Macy's floats. So we're going to be checking that out. That's going to be fun. Have a couple watch parties that are coming up of Christmas films. And then after that, going to be taking a little bit of a break for the holidays, but you will see content coming from me. So I got a lot of movies and TV shows to to catch up on. I know some of you have been asking me about Indian films. Yes, there's some actually that I've been watching, but I haven't had a chance to review. But still one of my favorite cinemas and our favorites. So you'll see us talking about that in 2024. So with that said, folks, happy holidays, Merry Christmas, a very, very happy New Year to you. Thank you so much for joining us and supporting the show. And of course, we will see you next time. Bye.